Hi guys, my name is Dante, and welcome back to Overpaint. So we're continuing our Overpaint month, but today's quite special because this is the first time I'm gonna be recording an episode painting on my Galaxy Tab S3 tablet, so let's see how that works out. I hope everything will perform well, and the recording won't stop or anything like that. Have no idea how this will turn out. But let's start, and today's patient is Emmy E. Lucas. Hi Emmy, and her pretty cool cartoonish girls who seem to be good friends. Quite a lovely scene right here. Hey Dante. So I've got this drawing that I did about a month ago, plus 6 months for me to get to it. Did about a month ago and I really love it, so I want it to be pulled apart. There's some dissonance with the design because the red character isn't mine. Oh, and she's a rather old design. You've helped me so much with drawing, especially drawing liquids and thinking of light. Well, that's great. Glad I helped. Edit. Dante, if you do a critique on this one, please be harsh and unforgiving if there's something you don't feel works. I'm in a deep need for genuine criticism. Well, let's see how that goes. So I'm of course gonna be using Infinite Painter to work on this, since it seems to be the best program for me. And so this is a screenshot. That's why I have some black fields on the left and right. This seems to be the only way to get the picture out of Patreon app. And I think I'm actually gonna keep the composition in these proportions, because this is number one thing. I would make the picture a bit less vertical, because it feels a little bit claustrophobic. Like, I can see where it's coming from. It's probably a good way to make the composition support the feeling of the intimate relationship of two friends, so we're getting close to them and don't see a lot of the rest of the world, which is a good way to do that. So maybe we'll keep it this way, I'm not sure. But let's upscale this probably. Yeah, this resolution is not enough. I think this kind of resolution, this is 100% gonna work stable on Infinite Painter, although I can go bigger, but that's gonna be a bit of a gamble. So right off the bat, I really love the art style. It looks really amazing. The colors are just awesome. The shadows are very natural. This is such a soft and nice color for the shadows of the skin. This is an interesting highlight on the red hair that has an actually very bright red color. I guess this girl dyes her hair. Like, I haven't done a lot of research on how exactly hair reflects, but generally a non-metallic reflection has a color of the light source, meaning the color of the highlight would normally be like paler. This would be the color of the highlight. But I assume many dyes have this rich, shiny effect, and it probably makes the hair glow with the color of the dye, which is interesting. I will look into this later. So I think I'm gonna experiment with the composition a little bit. I feel like maybe we should crop away the bottom part of their bodies because they feel like they're actually sort of distracting from the action that we're looking at. So we should either add more space on the sides to sort of drag away from the battle between the main action and this blank area where nothing really is going on at all, but it's like there and it takes a considerable portion of the composition. Or we actually just crop it away. That would be also a way to do it. I'll start with just adding, not removing, and then we'll see how that works. Another thing, if we're being harsh, I can be harsh. Like, there's nothing to be harsh about. This is art. You do it the way you want. I can only help you do it a bit better. Like, this is not science. You can't kill anybody with a bad painting. But even aside from that, like, genuinely, this is just a really good drawing. So another thing is about values. Again, even if this is such a cartoonish art style, it's a good idea to follow certain rules on the values. I would make this dress all the way dark at the bottom, because there's no point of it being so brightly lit, as bright as the top area on the chest right here. Like, this top area is facing upwards and is just higher than the bottoms. The chest should be brighter than the lower area of the dress, otherwise it looks sort of flat and makes the whole lighting. It's not just about the realistic lighting, it's about showing the actual place, the actual situation that the character characters are in with the light, because light dictates a lot of the mood. So if we'll make the bottom area of the characters actually catching less light, we will feel a lot more concentrated on the upper parts where the actual dialogue between the characters is happening. I think this will make a huge improvement in this whole composition dilemma. So I'll be doing that, and maybe I'll even increase it stronger. Like I'll add kind of like a soft shadow on this area, so they will be like in the soft light from the top front, and in here it will be going darker, closer to the bottom. I think it will look really great. Now, another thing about the art style, like the art style is great, but I feel like the fingers are kind of breaking it. Like the girls are really nice and pretty, but their fingers, if I just look at the fingers, I wouldn't imagine such pretty faces on top. I can see how there's like a certain attempt to make the lines sort of loose in the details, and this is a good trick actually to not go super precise everywhere. This is kind of an equivalent of keeping the brushwork big when you're painting with brushes, but generally I would kind of like do it differently. I would still make sure I keep the fingertips slimmer so they wouldn't look like shovels a little bit. So more like this, kind of like paying a little bit attention to the proportions of the finger. It still should get slimmer as it gets further, otherwise it looks a little bit grotesque, I would say. Like in this art style it would work for a guy, at least a guy, or maybe even some kind of a comic weird character, maybe even a creature. Definitely 100% that would work. But for the girls I would make a little bit of an effort to make the shapes of the fingers a bit better. And I think the same way it goes for the shape of the nail itself. They're kind of a bit too big somewhere, or too round and weird. Feels more like these are the toes. That kind of stuff I would fix. Okay, another thing is I would add a shadow in the place of contact. Like, we definitely can see very well how the characters are definitely touching each other, like pressing their faces together, but the light doesn't support that. So it feels a bit weird, like why is everything is light in there? So adding a little bit of the shadow falling down on the chin of the red girl would work much better, I think. And a little bit in here, since there's a little concave shape under the bottom lip on the face, so that would work pretty well. I'll make it more accurate, of course, as we actually start painting. Okay, the last thing, I would redesign the shape of the hair of this red girl to make it a bit like this. Otherwise it kind of looks like it's taking over her, so I would make it a little bit go away. So yeah, I guess for now these are my thoughts. Let's start and hope for a good process. Alright, I think I'm done here. So these are the fixes that I came up with. Really was quite a challenge to do this because the art style is quite new to me. The picture is pretty much awesome on its own, and also partially because I really had to experiment a lot with the software to make the brush work somewhat close to what we have already in the original, because this time I actually decided to keep the outlines. So yeah, I hope all the new details I did don't stand out too much, although it was kind of hard to avoid that with the different brush. But yeah, what I mostly did is I improved the lighting a little bit, ruined the faces a little bit. I think I did the fingers much better, generally just made them a bit more accurate. Drawing the nail with just 4 sides and neglecting a little bit one of the sides to keep it more natural and don't make it look like an actual rectangular sticker on there, so yeah, and the shape is a bit more gentle, I guess that's the word. So yeah, I think it works really well in here. So yeah, on the shoulders, I made the top planes brighter and the bottom ones darker. I mean, it's kind of a given for a cartoonish style to have this kind of shading, but still, something that I stumble upon a lot in the submissions, that the shadow area, like the active shadowy area, is always done correctly, but the actively bright area is not. Like, when the strong shadow is over, then we have a completely flat, even color for the rest of the surface, which is not exactly correct if we would be thinking with the full shading all the way. So yeah, I made the top planes brighter everywhere pretty much. Same as on the faces, the chin looking upwards, the cheeks looking upwards, the nose, the forehead. On the red girl as well, the chin, the nose, I made those brighter, and we actually see how the lighting is actually dictating a certain mood. So I think that worked out pretty well. The lighting on the hair added the most brightest spots on their actual like tops of their heads, because that's how lighting works, right? The top of the head is the highest point of the character and it's facing upwards, so it's always the brightest area. Oh, also in here, it's kind of interesting. I'm not sure why this shading was like this. This plane is facing upwards and this one is facing downwards, but this one is brighter than this one, so I kind of like switched them. So in general, it kind of reads better for the rest of the lighting, you know? So yeah, made the bottom part darker for the dresses. Didn't really do much of that on the red dress though. Not sure why. Could actually make it darker. Let's maybe do that a little bit. I think I'm gonna have to work a little bit more on the brushes in Infinite Painter, because right now I'm struggling a little bit with soft shading. Had to think a lot about this instead of what I'm actually doing, which is a dangerous situation to put yourself in. So yeah, now we're kind of like really watching these girls in here and don't pay a lot of attention to what's going on in here. A little guy for the eye with the lighting. I guess it works pretty well. Also, I added a little bit of the gradient for the background, highlighting the characters, creating a little aura around them. A pretty simple trick. This kind of composition and art style, I think it works pretty well with this. So yeah, this is it. Pretty much maybe a bit more attention to the values to make your shading more three-dimensional and make these nice round cool shapes of everything, of the hair, of the body parts, stand out a bit better with nice and soft and logical direction of the light on all the details. That'll work pretty well. Maybe a bit more love to the fingers is a good advice, I think. But I don't know, maybe that's just a matter of taste. And yeah, I think generally, even no matter what style it is, it's always a good idea to leave a smaller amount of lighting on the vertical planes than on the ones that are facing upwards. So it would read better that this is a dress that is going downwards and not a surface that is facing the light source. Even with flat shading, it can be achieved pretty well, I think. I kind of toned down a little bit the back tail and made this top of the head brighter to make this transition of the values read as well. So yeah, this is it. Tell me guys what you think about this. Did we actually manage to do anything better here? Thank you, Emmy, for your submission. This was really an interesting challenge to work on. If any of you guys want to see your artwork overpainted, you can submit it on my Patreon page. The link is in the end of this video, but keep in mind the queue of the submissions is pretty big at the moment. And I thank you for watching if you did. I guess I did if you're here. Leave a like and subscribe. Tell a friend. Buy a mobile tablet and keep sitting in front of a table. Do whatever you want. And I will see you in the next one. Bye. Such a nice picture. I need a hug. Nadia!